Let's do it. The top 5 things to watch next week. And so let's start with number 5. And this one was you. I'm shocked it was you, but it's you.
Okay. So
What's on your mind?
I always give you a hard time about
You do.
about well,
You
let
do.
me tell everyone what it is before you just say I give you a hard time about everything, but I especially give you a hard time about saying if it goes up, I'll buy it, and if it goes down, I'll sell it.
I know. You know what? You're the one who says that. I don't think I'm going to go back. I don't think I've ever said that on an
I
episode.
don't think I've
You
ever said
put
that.
those in-
I don't believe that.
You say it every time. You put it into my. You put those words in my
Okay,
mouth.
well, maybe. But listen, I'm going to put it out there. I'm bullish U.S. dollars. And I'm not going to wait for some breakout and say, oh, if it goes above 98, I'm going to buy it. Because if it goes above 98, everybody is going to buy it, and it's going to be 98 to 99 in like a blink of an eye.
Right.
Right?
So here's the chart. Right. Now, in fairness, I'd like to point out that I've been long U.S.
Yeah,
dollars.
you have been a bull. Fair enough.
But for a year, like I've been staying pat.
Okay.
And so now burning theta, mind you, because we put it on with some options. But I've remained bullish, steadfast through this whole period. So I am not just going to be buying at 98 when it makes new highs. But I do agree with you. But that's a big warning to all our listeners because we agree on something, isn't it?
Yeah, no kidding, hey? And especially since I'm buying at the top of a range, which kind of scares me a little.
It does scare me because you may just like Hulk smash this.
Yeah,
on
I might
me,
be
like,
calling it. But listen, look at this. Higher highs. Sorry, no, I can't even.
More importantly,
higher lows.
After all of the data, after all of the Trump shit,
Yeah.
and that can't hurt the dollar. What the hell?
Yeah, so I'm calling it right here. We're breaking above 98, and then everyone's going to rush in to buy it. We're going to spike to 100, and at that point, I might get bearish because ultimately I'm actually a bear. But I think
We've been in a range. We have not broken out. But I'll tell you this. In my opinion, I'll make the call right here to double down on your call. If we break out, that's the if, because we have not broken out. But if we break out, it's not stopping at 100. We're going 103
okay,
or
then
something
pull
like
out
that,
the chart.
104.
Let's
Back
pull
to
the
those
chart out and let's have a look here.
The chart here, I'm saying that if we break out of this range, this is the weekly chart. It ain't like targeting those highs from 2016 is far more realistic. You're like targeting these hundreds right along here. But I personally think that if we break out, we ain't stopping till 103, 104.
Okay, well there you go, folks. I'll disagree with you there. 103.
So you're
you're so
let's-
bullish, like you're just like crazy bullish. I think we're gonna get a push up, and then eventually that's gonna be accompanied with a worldwide global economic pickup. Which even though everybody thinks that will mean the U.S. dollar going up, in an environment with expanding global activity, that causes U.S. dollar to go down as more U.S. dollars are created. So,
all
there you
right.
go.
Let's just start with our listeners to one thing: does it or does it not break out? I mean, we can once it's north of 98, we can start debating all
We're
sorts
going
of
higher.
additional
We're
things,
going to
but,
break 98.
That's Kevin's call. I've been, for the record, I'm long dollars for a very long time, so this is nothing new for me. So number 4, Boeing, and obviously. This was all the big drop in Boeing was predicated by a disaster, and my condolences to anyone that had any family or anyone that's impacted by this, and I don't like to, anyway. Enough said about that, but Boeing obviously dropped on that news pretty hard. I mean, we dropped from about 440 to 450 on the upside down to about 360. And the news continues to be oriented around the fact that Boeing was responsible. It was all on Boeing's side. But the stock has more or less been trying to recover from those 360 lows. We're back to 390. And it's like, is that it? Is that over? is there more to come on the downside of Boeing? I can't help but to feel that the stock should not have much more upside here. I personally think that this entire bounce will be sold again.
So this is a
is.
problem because we both agree. I think that gap doesn't get filled. The gap from 420 to 400, I think it doesn't get filled. So
it's quite realistic that Boeing will not trade for any extended period of time above 400.
So I think the way you just drift lower, as you mentioned, there's terrible news. Like it's going to be difficult for people to allocate to this company in a big, sizable way with that. With the lawsuits that are overhanging and stuff. And I understand that it's a big company with a lot of different businesses, and that very well could be. But if you think about
this is not like it's not like Boeing's going to go bankrupt or anything. But it's not going to go back into its growth melt up phase off of here. Yeah. If anything, it's going to muddle along. Like, you know what? Maybe it's reminiscent of when Tesla peaked, right? Like, if you look at Tesla's chart, when they sort of peaked out over here, they did actually manage to make it back to their highs, but that really did mark a major high for the Tesla stock. Maybe, obviously we both have an opinion that Tesla is not going back to the 450 high. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but I don't think that it makes new highs. That's for sure. And it would not be a shocker for me to see the stock back at 300.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So let's just but one thing I will say is that if you do get a situation where it drifts down for the next year, and it's just kind of unloved and it becomes cheap enough, I think that at that point it'll be a buy. Because like it'll be something you should look at, but I think you should tuck it away for 6 months to a year before you think about it.
Fair enough. So now, Kev, number 3, what's on your mind here? Now, this is one of your favorite trades for the last 6 months.
This is one of my favorite trades for the last 6 months, and I kind of touched on it briefly when I said I don't think the Fed is going to be cutting here, and I think that the market has priced in a fair amount of Fed easiness, and I just don't think it's happening. Like, they're nuts. They've gotten way ahead of themselves.
Okay.
And so I think that the
530... Kev, so just for our listeners that are new to trading bonds, because first of all, let's be realistic. Most of our listeners are equity traders only. So not only do they not trade bonds, but it's a foreign thing to understand what the steepener is. So just take the 30 seconds and explain what a steepener is, and then I'll put up the chart.
Patrick, I think you're selling a lot of our listeners short. There are a lot of our listeners that do know, but let's talk to the ones that don't. So the 530s is the spread between the U.S. 5-year yield and the U.S. 30-year yield. And for the longest time, I've been bullish on this, and I've been lucky enough to get this right. And this part of the yield curve has actually been the part that has steepened the most, as people have priced in an increasing chance that the Fed is going to go easy, which if you think about it from step back and think about it from a logical perspective, if you think the Federal Reserve is going to be easy, that means that you're going to have more inflation, which therefore means that that's kind of like a long bond investor's worst nightmare. So which means that you'll pay less, you'll be less willing to invest at the long end of the curve, because they're going to inflate away kind of the real purchasing value of your bond position. So this is actually done quite well and has bounced really hard, and it never really inverted, and it actually is gone and from, where is that, 20 basis points all the way up to, what are we now?
So
65.
So Kev, yeah, I'm a Alex Gurevich style bond trader, which is I just pick a part of the curve and go long, which is amateur hour. Yeah, you make fun of me all the time, but whatever. When it comes to bonds, I keep it super simple, and I don't mean to diminish guys who play the curve the way you do, but one thing that I just was. Explain again, why is it that the 530s steepened this way, but you saw none of that in the 2s and 10s? or this is here for
Because the
instance,
twos and
the
tens, don't
3
forget the twos are stuck by like actual Fed policy. So there's only
Right.
so much discounting that they can put into the policy of the government of the Federal Reserve. So they're sitting there like bond traders are going.
So to bet on the twos and tens is you're literally betting that the rate cut cycle has begun.
Yeah. So I think that the market got way ahead of itself with the amount of kind of cutting that they're expecting from the Federal Reserve over the next little while. And I
But
think
would you take the
I think
two-
we're 1 second. I think we're going to be surprised that the Fed is not going to cut like Kudlow, Moore, and Trump want, but they're on hold forever. I literally think they're on hold, whether inflation's running 3% or inflation's running 1%. I
Right.
think that the Fed is on hold for a long time. And that right now, the market is pricing in a fair amount of kind of increased Fed easiness. And that as the economy does better, they might even go the other way. So right now, they're pricing in Fed cuts. I think it wouldn't take that much for them to even think about, or at the very least, take those Fed cuts out and flip to Fed hikes. And I'm probably more bullish on the economy than you are. But regardless, I just think that the steepener, that the time for that 530 steepener is over, and I suspect that we're going to have another chance to buy it.
So, you don't think it's going all the way back down to its lows?
I think it might. Like I think it might. I think there's some funny things happening.
You heard it from Kevin
Yeah.
Muir first.
Well, listen.
That was not on my radar at all for that to start flattening.
I think that we're gonna. I understand the reasons why it might not, and I think that the Fed being easy ultimately will be much more of a steepener trade. But I almost wonder if we're going to get a move back as the economy picks up, and as like if what I'm saying is correct, in that the economy takes off, or the stock market takes off, and the economy is doing well, we could get a situation where all of these yield curve things flatten even more again. And, so far the 210 hasn't gone negative. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the 210 goes 50 or 100 basis points negative. In that,
Really?
I like. Listen, it's happened
wow.
before. It's happened before.
I know, but wow.
Now, listen,
Yeah,
Trump
it's,
Trump has thrown a monkey wrench into that kind of feeling. Like it's. There's no doubt that it.
Yeah, so you have to go back to 2000 for us to be minus 1% on this.
Yeah.
No, and mind you, you had interest rates at a much higher number. Like in order for us to go -1 when the base rate of interest rates are near 2 and 3% on many of these bonds. I mean, that's a pretty crazy spread versus like in 2000s when you're talking 6-7% interest rates.
I'm not saying it's for sure going to happen. I just don't think that this trade, the steepener trade, for the short run is something you should be involved in. It's gotten ahead of itself, and that the 530, it's the end of that trade. You should step away. There's better trades out there.
We'll revisit that, but you're on record for this. Let's see how that pans out. I want to talk biotech, right? And now biotech, we obviously had Kieran on the show, and he was talking some of the periphery biotechs, right? Not the big boys in there. But I thought it was particularly interesting that the biotechs seem to be getting a little bit of tailwind here in the last week. And technically, there's a breakout the way most people would see, like a dollar breakout above 98, as this XBI is breaking out. So the question becomes, is the biotech in a position to break out here and actually follow through?
So
it is breaking.
So let me tell you a story, Patrick, about way back when Tesla was like, I don't know, $5-10, way back, like a long time ago. I wrote this macro tourist piece, and I said something to the effect that, The Fed's, doing quantitative easing. There's all sorts of stuff going on. And I don't know if this is going to take off, but if there was ever a stock that could kind of capture the imagination of the kind of public and become a vehicle of speculation, it's Tesla. And it's great because it's like so far off in the future. It's like it's a story that you don't need to worry about the results today, so therefore it's difficult to price because the growth is so much. And I wrote this big, huge piece, and it was like all about like how bullish I was and how you should pay. I think now that I think about it, I think Tesla was $20. And I said, you should put this $20 away. You should buy this Tesla, and it's either going to go to zero or it's going to go to like $300, $400, $500. Okay. So I wrote this big, huge bullish piece, and I remember my buddy phoning me up, and kind of like a year later, he says, "Yeah, look, Tesla's $100. Like you're actually smart. You knew what you were talking about." And
you're actually smart.
And he said, "You must be doing really well." And I said, "Well, to tell you the truth, I bought it at $20. It went up to 25, and I got nervous about the market, so I sold it." So the reason I'm telling this story.
What's the biotech?
So the reason I'm telling this story is because I think that every bull market needs some sort of kind of instrument that people can speculate in. And when Kieran told me like how he thought that biotech was changing in terms of the nature of, he had all sorts of fancy things, but how technology was making it so that there was lots of advancements, and whether it be artificial intelligence or whether it be computers, or I can't remember all the stuff. He's obviously much smarter than either you or I that he mentioned. I thought to myself, hey, what if it's biotech this time? What if that's the one that just people grab a hold of, and it's the kind of the exciting kind of speculative vehicle?
Oh, but biotech's been there before. Like, look at that.
Yes, of course, it has been there before.
2015
but you always
run,
need
right?
a poster child of we've talked about Tesla being the poster child of the class, but maybe we've been thinking about it wrong. Maybe we should be looking for the poster child of the blow off. And I remember in '99, Linux stocks, they were stupid. Like, they were just dumb. No, really, honestly. Like, they would, you'd announce that you were a Linux stock and the thing would double overnight. And all I'm saying is that...
Just like Kodak doubled when they said they were getting into crypto?
Yeah. So I just be aware that there's a chance that if we did get that kind of frothy environment that I'm looking for, it could be that biotech leads the way, and biotech is the one. Because let's face it, they're hard to price. They're basically big, huge call options, and that's the reality of the situation. And I have no opinion about whether they're good investments or not. All I know is markets, and I know that often the things that are difficult to price and that is growth out in the future that you can tell a story on is the stuff that gets the most kind of people excited. And to me, biotech fills the bill. So I don't know for sure, but let's just put it on our radar as something to watch for people to get excited about.
But you're talking about like those mid caps, not the XBI here that we were looking at is all the big boys.
I have no idea, because don't forget, if you're like a big investor and you're trying to put real money to work, you can't buy those shitty little mid caps. You have to buy the big guys. And if we are about to experience kind of revolutionary growth or breakthroughs in terms of biotech, then you could be shocked at how much these things run. Listen, if it gets excited and it starts to take off and people start telling you, oh no, I should sell it because I'm worried about the market, just like I got worried about the market at Tesla at 25, don't listen to them. Just like ride the bull, the bull.
Ride the bull.
Ride the bull.
All right. Well, you know what? It's on my radar, so I'm watching. So let's see how that continues to develop. So number one, Kev, what was on your mind?
Well, this one's pretty awesome, and I kind of said to you, we have to. I've decided number one, and I'm a good sport. I like people that kind of call me out on my bad calls and stuff, and I took it quite well when you pointed out last week that I had flip-flopped and I had gone from bearish too early to bullish. And you had kind of said, oh, look at this. Look at how stupid Kevin is. And I think...
Is that what I
yeah,
said?
that is what you said. And I think you angered the market gods. I really do. I think you've angered the market gods when you started making fun of me, because you should never make fun of someone's bad calls. And for the bears in the market, in the market that were expecting the S&P to go down, you can blame Patrick, because when
you can blame me. So this was the chart that I put up last
that's
week.
Right.
And
it was
and the market gods continue to.
They saw that. They saw you ridiculing my kind of position, and they were like, "Oh, geez, Patrick is a little cocky, and he's feeling a little too sure of himself." And we proceeded to go higher for the next week. Like, let's face it, we're finishing Friday afternoon. We're at the highs, bud.
Oh, fair enough. Fair
and
enough.
Listen.
Now, in full disclosure to the listeners. And my record, it's on record, whether you're following Macro Voices or whether you're a member, and that my members know. But I mean, in the end, we have not gone outright bearish the market. We're straddling.
Okay.
So I got calendar straddles. I've got the gamma to the upside, and so we've been rolling with the upside without it costing us any. We did it at a break even. And so, to be honest, I'm not short where I'm getting my ass handed to me on here. Even my breakout trades, I think the only shorts we have going on in our breakouts is we're short euros and we're short GE.
Okay. But
right?
You're still making
so
fun of me, buddy, and that's all that matters.
I made fun of you, and the market gods are humiliating me.
No kidding.
And but I still think that you're going to be wrong on your Super Bowl call.
Okay, so listen. Oh, market gods, if you're listening, I have the most respect for you. I do not agree with him. Do not listen to him. He does not know what he's talking about. You are still, the fact that you're still saying I'm wrong, you're angering the gods, Patrick. You're angering the gods.
The market gods are being pissed off here, but I'm a Titan Slayer, so we'll find out. We'll find out whether or not they prevail. Great number one. I think you can continue to shame me, but we'll see how this plays out here in the coming weeks.
No, my friend, I did not shame you.
Months.
You were the one who shamed me, and
I shamed myself.
That's right.
I shamed myself. All right, let's move on.